As we look ahead to Sunday, of course, Niners and Cowboys go Sunday at Levi's. And I'm really looking forward to this one because it's a gotta-have-it game, right? Dallas has got to have it. Niners have got to have it. And when both teams are in that kind of desperation mode, man, it makes it extra special. And with us on the UMA guest line to help us break it down is Joe Hoyt, who I noticed had a 650 area code to his number. And I'm like, wait a second. Maybe this guy's got some Bay Area ties. Sure enough, I dug deep. I found Joe Hoyt is a proud graduate of, wait for it, Sarah High School. And he's with us on the UMA guest line. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well, Larry. I'm impressed by the investigative skills. You had a path and you went down it. But, yeah, I went to Sarah, graduated there. I've been to Almanac Brewing multiple times, actually. So
really?
Great spot. I hope you guys are enjoying some beers out there.
Let's talk a little bit about Micah Parsons. He didn't practice today. He's got an ankle injury. I saw that he's been ruled out for the third straight game. But then when I kind of dug into the numbers on the Cowboys, I saw that their pressure rate with and without Parsons is pretty much identical. And I've always thought of Parsons as one of the great, pass rushers in the sport. So what's the story there? Is there a story? We know DeMarcus Lawrence is on the IR, but is it possible that they don't miss Parsons? That seems hard to believe.
Yeah, because I think they really do, ultimately. I think if you kind of look at what's kind of happened in terms of the Cowboys' pass rush, they really haven't had a lot of bats at the plate, frankly, because if you kind of look what's happened at home, they've had the doors blown off them at home. There's not a lot of times to rush the passer when the running back, when opposing teams just going to focus on running the ball and bleeding the clock out. The Cowboys at home in their last 4 games, including the playoff loss to the Packers, have been down in the first half 110-35. It's been an absolute debacle for them. So long story short, Micah Parsons has been more in run support because there's not a lot of drop-back pass situations, but they're going to severely miss him against this 49ers team. He actually was one of their better run defenders. And without him, their best pass rusher, Larry, is Linval Joseph. That's their highest pass rusher is Linval Joseph, according to Pro Football Focus. So not a great arsenal of pass rush coming for the Cowboys against the 49ers this weekend.
Well, and how about some of these other guys? Like Deron Bland. Bland I saw hadn't practiced all week. Do you expect him to go? How about Eric Kendricks? How about is it Carson? Carson, the corner. What's I know the kicker's going to go, right? Brandon Aubrey hasn't practiced all week, but he's going to go. What are you hearing about Bland and Kendricks and in the corner?
Yeah, Bland, he's recovering from that stress fracture surgery he had, and those can be kind of temperamental, and that's proven to be true. He was a guy that, they thought was a game-time decision a couple weeks ago in Detroit before the bye, and then now he's out. He's not going to play against the 49ers. It's a big blow to them, especially for a Cowboys team that has not generated turnovers. If you kind of look at what Dan Quinn's era was, it was a lot of just, high-pace pass rush, making plays on turnovers. And the Cowboys they're -6 in the turnover ratio this year. It's been a killer for them. So not having Deron Bland hurts. Kalen Carson's expected to play, and so is Eric Kendricks. And that's important for the Cowboys defense in terms of trying to get everyone aligned against a 49ers attack that likes the motion, likes to get guys kind of off balance. He's kind of an essential piece. And in the little storyline with him, he nearly signed with the 49ers this offseason, and now he's become a central leader for this Cowboys defense.
Well, he announced that he was coming to the Niners. But you know what? I kind of understood that. I know some people tried to make a big deal about that. But you know what? That's not a big deal. Eric Kendricks played with Mike Zimmer, right? Zimmer was his coordinator in Minnesota for a number of years. This is just kind of the way it's done in the NFL. Guys go where their friends are at, right? So if you're friends, if you're friends with Zimmer and he meant a lot to you, and now he's back as the coordinator of the Cowboys, and he puts out a call to you and says, hey, Eric, I really want you here. You're going to tell the Niners, go fly a kite. I know there were a lot of Niner people that were a little bent by that. The Niners went and got Devondre Campbell. Campbell's been a circus. He's not been anything. He has not been good with the 49ers. But how's Kendricks been with Dallas? I know the numbers look good, but how's he played?
Yeah, he's played well. He's been out. He missed the Lions game, and that proved to be a big blow for them. They were out of position constantly. If you go back and watch that Lions tape, there are just guys, not only is the defensive line getting pushed down 5 yards downfield, almost every running attempt, but you have a lot of guys that's out of position. And the one thing Eric Kendricks will do for this Cowboys defense is get everyone aligned, and get everyone in position. And that's the reason, ultimately, you mentioned the Mike Zimmer tie, which was a big impact, but also he kind of looked at San Francisco and he's like, hey, I want to play Mike. And if I'm going to San Francisco, I'm not playing Mike. I'm playing next to Fred Warner until Dre Greenlaw comes back. So here in Dallas, he is the guy. He is the Mike, and he's an important piece, especially against this 49ers rushing attack.
Let's talk a little bit about Dallas on the special teams side of things, because that's where, John Fossil's just a phenomenal special teams coach. The Cowboys are the #1 team in the NFL on special teams. There's that old saying, hey, special teams is a third of the game. And it really is a third of the game when you blow it. I mean, it's just, and the 49ers have absolutely been horrible on special teams. Almost every negative play that you could possibly imagine has happened to them already this year on special teams. Brian Schneider is considered to be a top-tier special teams coach. I know Shanahan doesn't want to fire him, but at the same time, I don't know how much longer they can go with him, especially if they get owned by Dallas on special teams in this game. Why is Fossil such a good special team coach, and what makes their special teams units so incredible? They are #1 in the league. We know Aubrey's a tremendous kicker, and that's part of their equation, but obviously the coverage units are doing a job as well.
Yeah, no, I think the thing when you think about John Fossil, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, is this is a guy that is a son of a former NFL head coach. And he's a guy that potentially, if you look at his career, probably could have had opportunities to maybe kind of get on more of a head coaching track, especially, being a special teams guy. They have a lot of familiarity with the team. But he's a quirky individual, man. He is someone that is so detailed. He's very, I think you could even use the word obsessive about special teams. And his players feed off it. They get confidence from that. And it's funny, this week, knowing how bad San Francisco is on special teams and knowing how good Dallas is, I kind of asked a lot of special teams players this week in the locker room, like, hey, guys, is this a week where maybe you kind of bring out some tricks and stuff like that? And they're like, no, frankly, we're just going to rely and focus on ourselves because we know that our ability at our best is going to be better than pretty much every team in the NFL, and that's what the stats prove. So I'm not even sure, Larry, if I'd expect, Bones Fossil to pull out, some tricks or some crazy stuff. I'm barring, unforeseen circumstances. I think that they just have a lot of confidence they can, basically line up against the San Francisco special teams and make plays.
Yeah, and there's reason they should feel that confidence. Joe Hoyt with us on the UMA guest line as we look ahead to Niners-Cowboys Sunday Night Football, and it's going to be a doozy, man, because the Cowboys need this one, the Niners need this one. Tell us a little bit about McCarthy. I know he's on the hot seat, but Jerry is an interesting guy because, and I've heard people say, well, he's not on the hot seat, he's Jerry's best friend. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. How would you describe where McCarthy, his job status? He's in the final year of his deal, so you can, by definition, he's a lame duck head coach. He has no assurances beyond this year. They've been very disappointing. Jerry, I heard him on the radio threatening to. He's like, if you don't ask me good questions, I'll go find other guys who can ask better questions. Jerry just sounds like a tyrant. But he has a soft spot for McCarthy. And is McCarthy, I'm starting to get these L.A. Clipper vibes, where Donald Sterling owned the thing forever. Everybody knew he was a train wreck. And yet Elgin Baylor maintained his job there forever just simply because he was willing to be the general manager under Donald Sterling. Is Mike McCarthy just has a lot more job security than we think because he allows Jerry and Stephen Jones to be involved on the football side? Or is he, done at the end of the year if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs or do something significant?
Yeah, it's funny because I've kind of looked at this season almost like the movie Memento, where you kind of know the ending and you're just kind of building backwards a little bit. And it kind of felt like inevitably this season is going to be Mike McCarthy's last with the Dallas Cowboys because – you kind of look at just what they've done. They've won 12 games every single season, the last 3 seasons, and then they've had disappointing playoff success twice as the San Francisco 49ers. And it's felt like this whole season has kind of just been what's written on the wall, and we're just going to ride it out. Because, not only is Mike McCarthy on an expiring contract, every single assistant coach is too. They know that their jobs are on the line as well. They got over 20 free agents. Jerry Jones famously used the all-in saying this offseason, and we kind of thought, maybe they're going to go all in, make some moves, push some financial salary cap stuff to the future and make some big plays. No, he was kind of saying, we're going to take what we got, go all in with it, and then if we lose, we're just out with it, right? So I think the other thing, though, you got to look at with Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy is Jerry Jones aside from Wade Phillips, over a decade ago, he does not fire coaches midseason. Jason Garrett had multiple times, twice actually, where they just let him ride out the end of his contract. One time it resulted in a contract extension. The other time it didn't. And I think McCarthy would have had to do some very impressive stuff, and still can, some impressive stuff to kind of warrant an extension. And the other day, Jerry Jones even said, hey, I kind of regret firing Wade Phillips midseason. There was no productivity to it. It didn't work. I regret it. So I don't think that you're going to see McCarthy get fired midseason, frankly. But in order for him to save his job, they would have to go turn things around very quickly for a team that really hasn't shown a lot of optimism that they will.
Joe Hoyt with us on the UMA guest line from Lone Star Live as we look ahead to Niners and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a really, really good football game. Niners have to have it. Dallas is coming off the bye week. Niners are going to get their best effort. Cowboys have a 7-day rest advantage. I kind of think, the 49ers play 4 different teams off the bye and are like minus 21 rest days on the year. And I know nobody wants to hear it. It's sour grapes. It's this, it's that. But it just seems so it's just not an equitable situation. I mean, if the Niners played the Ravens on Super Bowl Sunday in New Orleans, the Ravens would have, wait for this, a 41-day rest advantage on a football season that only lasts 4 months. I mean, why even have competitive balance in other areas that you care about if you're going to allow one team to have 41 more rest days over the course of 4 months? That seems like an absurd inequality within the game, does it not?
Oh, that's insane. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. And, you think about it like, right now, and what could that do for the Cowboys, right? And what kind of hope could that, kind of inspire for a team that's been struggling? If you kind of look at DVOA in terms of offense and defense, the Cowboys are one of 3 teams that are in the top or of a bottom 10 in both offense and defensive DVOA. It's them, New England, and Carolina. And so, frankly, the 3-3 record can be a little misleading about this Dallas Cowboys team. But the 49ers appear more vulnerable than they've ever been under the last 4 seasons going up against these Cowboys. And to your point, they coming off the bye, maybe there's some reason to think that they maybe figure some things out from a competitive standpoint. But I know a lot of Cowboys fans and people that cover the Cowboys are kind of thinking that the writing's on the wall with this one too, especially when you kind of consider just where the Cowboys are not good, right? They can't stop the run. They are a historically bad run defense right now. They can't run the ball themselves. We might see Dalvin Cook on Sunday for the first time,
Really?
Which is interesting. Yeah, Mike McCarthy said that he's kind of trending towards at least being ready, but he's been also working with the first team for the last few weeks and hasn't been elevated from the practice squad. So we'll see there. Long story short, Larry, I think it is a competitive advantage for these Dallas Cowboys, but you just don't know how much it's actually going to help.
Dallas. I mean, first of all, Dallas is a great football town. I mean, first of all, it's a great city. I love Dallas. I love going to Dallas. But I mean, football is religion in the state of Texas. I mean, everybody knows that. Friday night lights, Friday night high school football, Saturday college football, Sunday pro football. I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And everything the Cowboys do gets noticed. It's not like they do things that, I didn't notice they did. So their weaknesses, everybody knows them. I bring this up because Dallas was the team that had Tony Dorsett when I was a kid. I mean, we used to pretend we were Tony Dorsett. Then they had Emmitt Smith. How does a franchise that had Tony Dorsett and Emmitt Smith allow themselves to enter a football season where they're considered a Super Bowl contender with no running backs to speak of? I mean, Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn. I mean, there's not a legitimate, in his prime, NFL running back anywhere on this roster or practice squad. What is the media have to be pulling their hair out? The fans have got to be pulling their hair out. I mean, it's not like nobody's noticing that they don't have any running backs. And what is Jerry's answer when people are like, aren't you going to spend money on a running back? Aren't you going to go get a Derrick Henry? Aren't you going to go get? I mean, has this question been asked? I mean, why does Dallas have no running back?
No, it's been asked. It's been asked since the moment this offseason when everyone realized, hey, wait, you're not doing anything at running back, right? And I think kind of a good picture of where the Cowboys' thought process is on running backs was, we figured, okay, maybe in the draft is where they'll get one, right? They loved Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. Jerry Jones said it was the best pre-draft interview he's ever had. Okay, maybe you take him in the second round, right? Well, the night before the draft, Jerry Jones was having drinks with Ezekiel Elliott and his agent, talking about talking about that potential reunion. And once the draft passed, that's what happened. Ezekiel Elliott re-signed. Jerry Jones was saying the whole time, we think that he still has RB1 potential. And clearly he hasn't been in this Cowboys offense, and clearly they're not even giving him the attempts to warrant that kind of label. So these things, it's been interesting because we've been kind of asking and talking about it. Derrick Henry might be the most talked about and Google search player in the DFW Metro because he lives in Dallas, wanted to come to Dallas. If the Cowboys truly wanted to go all in, they could push some money around it. They have some hurdles for sure, but other teams kind of make those hurdles. And Derrick Henry could have been a guy that fit in very nicely. Instead, he was running all over you in week 3 as you started to wonder where the season was going to go. So, the running back situation is interesting. I think Rico Dowdle has some potential. He is averaging over 4 yards a carry. He had his best game against the Steelers when they actually kind of fed him the ball a little bit. I'm curious to see if he'll get more attempts against San Francisco. That's something Mike McCarthy mentioned. But now we're also talking about Dalvin Cook, another guy who's a veteran that, kind of late in his career kind of type running back. So it's been one of those things, Larry, to be honest with you, that's been baffling from the media perspective, from a fan perspective, and kind of a glaring issue that everyone can see, but, Jerry Jones kind of chose to address it in his own way this offseason.
Is Cook going to get some significant carries, you think, Sunday night?
I wouldn't bet that he gets significant carries. And to be honest with you, like I said, he's been working with the first team for a few weeks now in practice, but has not been elevated. They've been kind of doing this slow approach thing. They've kind of attributed to the communication threshold in terms of, pass pro and stuff like that and trying to get him in line there. But he's been ready for a while. He's been wondering, when am I going to get this call up? So I think it's trending towards him being activated and elevated for the first time on Sunday against San Francisco. I still think that Rico Dowdle would be their number one running back in that situation.
Couple last minutes with Joe Hoyt, who's with us on the Uma guest line as we look ahead to Sunday. Niners and Cowboys go on Sunday Night Football. It should be fantastic. Larry Krueger with you on Niners Nightly, and tonight we're here at Almanac Brewing Company in Alameda. So if you're out here on the island, stop by and say hello. This place is absolutely cool. A couple before we let you go. A couple more. One, if Jerry Jones, I always think of Jerry Jones as he had Jimmy Johnson. He won 2 rings. He chased out Jimmy in the middle of a drunken bar because he didn't like what Jimmy was saying about him behind his back. I mean, seriously, what is this? Is this an NFL coach and an owner, or is this the Delta Gamma mixer? I mean, what are we talking about here? But that's what happened. And they ran him out, and Jerry boasted. I think what happened was Jimmy heard Jerry boasting at a table, I got 500 guys that can coach this team and win the Super Bowl. And then Jerry went and picked one guy who actually, shockingly, won the Super Bowl, and that was Barry Switzer. And he won it with Jimmy's talent. He wasn't a great coach, and it was like Jerry was validated. He was vindicated for going with Barry Switzer. But he has paid the price ever since. And I just kind of wonder, do you think if we could give him truth serum and you said to him, hey, Jer, if you could still own the team, go to all the games, do everything you're doing, but, have a situation where it's like Jimmy Johnson or Bill Parcells, where they basically are like, get out of here. You're not making football decisions, and take your goofy son with you. I kind of would you rather have that if I guarantee you'd have 3 or 4 more rings, or is it imperative that you make all the decisions and your son make all the decisions and the war room have you in the center of it and you're the central football figure? What do you think he would choose? Because he has not won since Switzer. The Switzer Bowl was lucky, and to me, this is a guy who realistically probably would have had 5 more rings if he had just had football people running the show. What do you think his answer would be if you said, hey, you know what? You can run the show and win nothing, or you can let somebody else run the show and win 5 rings. What would he do?
That's a great question, Larry, and I think he would adamantly take the path he's already been on, frankly. And I think I look back at one quote he had before the season. He told Clarence Hill, another writer on the beat, saying, no one can effing do this like I can. And he was talking about being a GM. he was talking about his current status as a GM. I mean, wow. The thing about Jerry is he is a businessman. He thinks that he's, he does think that he's making the best decisions possible. And honestly, one of the big storylines this week was ESPN wrote an article about the tours that the Cowboys host in their facility, right? Is it a distraction? And they're the only team in the NFL that has tours running daily through their facility. So, I mean, fans can literally go walk up and be right next to Dak Prescott as he's walking to lunch, right? And, a lot of players said, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a little bit of a distraction. And Jerry Jones went on the radio again today on 105.3 The Fan, and he said, you know what? I told the ESPN writer, I want you to write this article and to go into detail because this will be good for business and it'll generate more tours. At the end of the day, he loves to even spin things when things are quiet and loves to be in the center of attention and loves to see the Dallas Cowboys on ESPN constantly. So I think he absolutely thinks he is also the best person that makes football decisions for this team. And I think he also looks at the business numbers and said, you know what? If Forbes is saying that we're doing a good job, I think I'm doing a good job.
I will say this. I saw Hard Knocks when they featured the Cowboys and they had the drone fly through the Star. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, the Star, their practice facility. And I will admit, the Star blows away the Niners facility. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the Star is top notch. I mean, I'll get, and that stadium that he built, Jerry's World, is also top notch. But they haven't won. They have not won. Last one for you. One of my favorite young Cowboys is probably Jerry's as well because he loves the guys from Texas. DeMarvion Overshown. Not just a great name. This kid's got a lot of talent. I love DeMarvion Overshown. Is he healthy? Is he going to play in this game? What do you think of Overshown? Big, tall, inside linebacker who just runs like the wind.
Yeah, he's healthy. He's ready to go. And I think the thing with DeMarvion, and something I'm sure you've watched too, Larry, is his speed pops. He's very fast. You go watch week 1, he chases down Deshaun Watson on a sack, and he beat Micah Parsons to it. And Micah Parsons' speed is pretty legit, and he kind of made him look slow. The one thing that's been interesting with DeMarvion Overshown in particular is this is the guy that missed all of his rookie season due to a torn ACL, right? Came back, and he is an Energizer bunny ready to go. The thing they're trying to get with him, though, now is to actually slow him down a little bit. He's so fast, and he makes so many impact plays, but because of that speed and that willingness to hit the hole no matter what, he sometimes has missed tackles or he's sometimes out of position, which then opens up a lot of holes. So they're trying to get him to be not just a playmaker, but a true linebacker in the system. And it's one of those things, it's his greatest asset is also potentially his greatest weakness. So that's one thing to watch is he'll make a lot of plays, but he might be out of position a couple times too. And that's something he said on the bye week that he's really trying to hone in on and work on. But fun player to watch, dude.
Hey, Joe, tell us about Lone Star Live. If people want to catch you, you're a great follow on Twitter. Is it at Joe J. Hoyt? Is that right? Joe J. Hoyt? And then you're also your Lone Star Live. I saw is at DLLS_Cowboys on X. Tell us a little bit if people want to catch up with you and start following you and reading what you're doing around the Cowboys and checking out what you're putting out there. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I actually went from Lone Star Live to DLLS Cowboys. It's a separate site, but DLLS Cowboys is they got a bunch of it's all city is what it's called, and they got locations in Philly, Phoenix, Denver, and basically what they do is they do live YouTube shows 5 days a week, an hour long, for every single Dallas team. There's a panel of us, Clarence Hill, the guy I mentioned earlier. Me and him are on the beat together, and then we got some other guys, and it's awesome. We're on alldls.com. You can follow me at Joe J. Hoyt. I promise I won't have too many Sarah tweets, Larry. Maybe when the Jungle Game comes around, I might throw in a couple there, but that's where you can check us out and see all that stuff too. Joe,
I'll say it one time and I'll say it with feeling. Sarah is a girl's name. That's all I'll say. Joe, great stuff, man. Thanks for jumping on. Hey, by the way, are you a Niner fan in the middle of Cowboy everything, or were you not really a Niner fan? You just happen to be from here?
I think my 650 area code speaks about where my fanhood grew up as. But hey, my objectivity as a reporter, right? You gotta stay true to it and cover it. And the Cowboys is a great business opportunity for me. So
I hear you. Hey, man, thanks for jumping on. We appreciate you jumping on Niners Nightly. I would say good luck to your Cowboys Sunday night, but I don't mean it. I absolutely don't mean it. Joe, have a great night, though. Thanks for coming on.